Hey everyone, this is Tammie Painter, and you're listening to the Book Owl Podcast, the podcast where I entertain your inner book nerd with tales of quirky books and literary lore. And look guys, it's only episode 3 and the show has already gone to the dogs. But before we begin chatting about literary pups, let me just say that if you've been enjoying the show, and I know we're only a couple episodes in, but if you have been enjoying it, one of the best ways you could show your appreciation is to just tell somebody else about it. Whether that's leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser, sharing the show on social media, or simply turning to the person next to you, 6 feet from you, turning to that person and saying, hey, you might also enjoy this. And since I'm mentioning reviews, I just want to give a big thanks to Tammie of tierneycreates.com for recommending the Book Owl Podcast on her blog recently. Yay. I encourage you to check out her blog because she's really creating some amazing stuff over there. And also, I have to thank user Pat Lav over on Podchaser for reviewing each episode so far. I mean, how cool is that? Anyway, as always, any links mentioned in the show will be in the show notes, so you don't have to worry about scrambling around and jotting them down. Alright, on to the age-old question, the quandary that has stumped philosophers and scientists for centuries, the issue I'm sure has been keeping you up at night. Do dogs know how to read? Now, while I can't find any research papers on this, I'm gonna guess that the answer is no, dogs cannot read. So really, you should stop making them fetch the paper. However, dogs can listen. In fact, they love a good yarn, which is why libraries across the United States have programs where our canine buddies come in to listen to kids read. So why, besides the fact that it's possibly the cutest thing ever, why would you want to stick your kid in a room with a dog and a book? Well, it really is beneficial for building confident and highly engaged readers. See, most kids love dogs and they love spending time with dogs, especially if that kid can't have a dog of their own. Now, those dog-loving kids may really not be that into books. So if you tell a kid who really isn't into books that you're going to a library, he or she is not going to be thrilled about that excursion. But if you tell that same kid there's going to be a dog there, I bet you those very same kids are going to be racing toward the car and strapping themselves in, eager to go. That kid who hates to read at home and sees it as a chore will now see it as fun because he's going to get to read to a dog. Yeah, I know it's bribery, but hey, whatever works, right? The second reason this works is that dogs really don't care what you say to them. Now, I really like cats. I'm a little bit of a crazy cat lady. I have 4 of them. But I do know they've got their quirks. And if you read to a cat, there's a high likelihood that that cat, if you mess something up, is going to give you a judgmental stare and then walk out of the room. But not a dog. Dogs love attention, and they will listen to these kids read no matter how much they stumble over the big words. And that builds a huge amount of confidence. The kid continues to read to the dog continues to listen, and the more the kid reads, the stronger his reading abilities become. And the stronger, more comfortable a kid is with reading, the more he or she will do it. Basically, the dogs are a way, yet again, to bribe kids into being lifelong readers. So, thanks, doggies. Good boy. So, while this all sounds utterly adorable, does this program actually make a difference, or is it just good PR for libraries? Well, okay, it is good PR, but reading to dogs or other animals, yes, even cats, has also been proven to improve reading. In one study done by the University of California at Davis, they took 2 groups of readers, young readers, one who read to a dog and another who didn't. And I don't know how long they conducted the study. I want to say it was maybe a month or 2. But the readers with a canine audience saw anywhere from a 12 to 30% improvement in their reading fluency over the group that wasn't reading to a dog. In another study, this time by Tufts University, they found that kids who read to dogs showed an improved attitude toward reading, which then correlates to a better attitude about schoolwork and learning in general. Now, you may be wondering, how does this reading fluency improvement and interest in learning spill over into the kid's future? Well, as sad and unbelievable as it sounds, the American Library Association estimates that there are 27 million functionally illiterate people in the United States. And illiteracy starts young. In general, and of course there are exceptions, people who don't get a handle on their reading skills by 3rd grade will never really show much improvement. That leads to a disinterest in learning and in higher education, which then leads to lower paying jobs, which then leads to a lower income, and that has been proven to also lead to poorer health. So starting reading young and gaining confidence in that reading really it improves your whole life. And above all that, learning and reading lead to critical thinking, which is so important in these days of political interference and outright lies to gain votes and manipulate facts. Seriously, people, the pen and being able to read what that pen wrote really is mightier than the sword. But let me get off my literary soapbox and back to the dogs. So what clever person came up with this idea? I know I read to my pets as a kid, and I'm sure some kids have been doing that for ages, but it was a woman named Sandy Martin from Utah's Intermountain Therapy Animals who observed how well people responded to therapy dogs, and she thought, hey, how would this work for kids who are a bit wonky with their reading skills? And no, that's not a direct quote. Anyway, she started a new branch of the therapy group, and she called it Reading Education Assistance Dogs, or READ, READ. In the late 90s, the group ran a pilot program in the Salt Lake City Library, and it was an immediate hit. And since then, the idea of reading to dogs in libraries and in schools has jumped like fleas across the country. Sorry, I couldn't resist. So who are these dogs? There's no one central read to the dog agency for the U.S. It's really a program that's run by whatever organization wants to undertake the work of managing the program locally, and it's almost always run by volunteers. For example, in the Portland area, that organization is Dove Lewis, who is mainly known as an emergency vet service. Now, don't worry, the dogs aren't being pulled out of their hospital beds and hauled in to hang out at libraries. Instead, people sign up with their dogs who have received therapy dog credentials. The people then make the effort to drive out to libraries across the area to help build a new generation of book nerds. So let's pause a moment and give a little hoot to those volunteers. All right? Yay! So there is a little bit of canine profiling going on. The programs do want dogs who will appear friendly and approachable to kids to encourage the little ones to get in there and start reading. And obviously the dogs have to pass a temperament test. No word on whether the kids do as well, but that's another story. And while mellow labs and goofy golden retrievers might be the first dogs that come to mind for these type of situations, from pictures I've seen in programs across the country, there's also greyhounds and terriers and pugs and mutts, and really any well-mannered dog who has proven themselves calm, good with kids, and who loves a good story. If you have a dog that might fit the bill, and if you have time to help build a better reader, all you have to do is search for Read to the Dog along with your city, county, or state's name, and you should find an organization in your area that's running something similar. If you don't have a dog, you can always consider making a donation to your local group. And I've added a link in the show notes if you want to donate to the READ program. That's all I've got for dogs, But before we wrap up, since we're talking about libraries, there was one story that caught my eye. And I was thinking about saving it as the bonus tidbit for the Book Owl podcast newsletter that I send out with each episode. But it's too good and I couldn't resist sharing it with all of you. So apparently a library in Newcastle, that's in the UK, had a service come in to do a deep cleaning. Anyway, to do this cleaning job, the cleaner was required to remove all the books from the shelves, and then was supposed to put them back when the job was done. Well, the cleaners did put the books back, but not in the order they were. They put them back in order by size. Yes, by size, from large to small. I can't even imagine, that. It just seems like so much extra work, right? Anyway, the library director supposedly took a good attitude toward this and said, well, at least we're closed right now and we'll have plenty of time to set things right. So, I don't know, is that the good side of the coronavirus? Is that we have time to rearrange our libraries? Anyway, thanks for listening, everyone. I've got a personal update coming up, but if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to let me know. You can always leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Podchaser, like I mentioned earlier, or you can contact me directly at thebookowlpodcast.com/contact. And of course, if you want to get even more out of each episode, be sure to subscribe to the Book Owl Podcast newsletter on that very same page. Again, thanks for listening, and I will hoot at you next time. Alright everyone, this is the time in the show where I just give a few personal updates. I've just finished the third draft of the first 2 books in a trilogy I'm working on. It's sort of a urban paranormal story with plenty of magic, but also a couple zombies and a little bit of mystery. There's no official title yet. I'm still working on that, but for right now I'm just calling it the Cassie Black trilogy because that's the main character. The second bit of news is simply that I'm gearing up for the launch of the final book in the Osteria Chronicles, and that's my historical fantasy series in which the Greek gods come to life as you've never seen them before. That final book comes out on May 19th, and I'll probably be telling you about it next time. Anyway, that's it for me. Have a great couple weeks. The Book Owl Podcast is a production of Daisy Dog Media. Copyright 2020, all rights reserved. The theme music was composed by Kevin MacLeod.